Hey, Cules. Are you sitting down? Because what I'm about to tell you today is going to leave you speechless, like when Messi scored one of his insane free kicks in the last minute. In Barcelona, the city where football is more of an art than a sport, Deco, our sporting director with vision sharper than a hawk on the hunt, has pulled off a masterstroke that echoes from the Camp Nou all the way to the beaches of Barceloneta. Yes, my friends, the transfer market seemed closed, the curtains drawn, but Deco, with that Brazilian calm of his, pulled a rabbit out of his hat. A masterstroke, a move that nobody, not even the most optimistic Cule, saw coming. But don't worry, I'll tell you everything step by step, as if we were sitting at a table after a great match in the local bar. We're in the summer of 2025. The sun is blazing in the Catalan capital, and Barça, under the leadership of Hansi Flick, is in an enviable position. Last season was a dream, a domestic treble that restored pride to the Cules. But as in life, not everything is rosy. The club's finances remain as delicate as a GAVI pass in tight spaces, and the transfer market seemed more like a headache than a game of chess. Yet Deco, with his mix of cool-headedness and business acumen, decided that this Barça wouldn't settle for what it already has. No, gentlemen, this team wants more, and the Brazilian went all in. The protagonist of this story is none other than Alejandro Grimaldo, the prodigal son returning home. Yes, you heard right. Grimaldo, the left-back trained at LAMINE, who honed his skills in Portugal with Benfica and shone like a star at Bayer Leverkusen, is back. And no, this isn't one of those rumors that circulate on social media like a video of Ronaldinho's latest trick. It's real, it's tangible, and it's signed. Deco negotiated with the precision of a surgeon and sealed the transfer for €15 million. A bargain in an era where clubs demand fortunes for players who don't come close to our Alejandro's level. But let's take it step by step, because this deserves to be told calmly, like when Xavi explained a play on the tactics board. A few weeks ago, the market seemed closed. The Cules were already excited about the names Flick had in the squad. Joan Garcia in goal, Nico Williams tearing down the wing, and a midfield combining PEDRI's magic with Gavi's grit. But then, boom, Inigo Martinez left for Saudi side Al Nassr, leaving a hole in defense bigger than the one Puyol left in his prime. Flick, who isn't one to sit on his hands, told Deco, "We need a centre-back and a full-back who doesn't just defend but attacks like a winger." And Deco, with that sly smile that seems to say, "Relax, boss, I've got this," got to work. Grimaldo wasn't a name on the media's radar. The headlines were buzzing about other players, rumors from the Premier League, possible departures like Fermin Lopez, whom Chelsea keeps eyeing like a hungry seagull. But Deco, like a good magician, saved his final trick for the last minute. Negotiations with Leverkusen were quick and discreet, like a filtered pass from De Jong. The €15 million release clause was a steal for a club like Barça, still battling financial restrictions. And Grimaldo, who has never hidden his love for the club that raised him, didn't hesitate for a second. "Returning home," he said in a recent interview, "is a dream not everyone gets to live. And if that already gives you goosebumps, wait until you hear the rest." Subscribe to the Cules channel, because what's coming this season is going to be breathtaking. Now, why Grimaldo? Let's break it down like we're on the post-match TV show. First, experience. Alejandro is 29, at the peak of his career, and has played in competitive leagues like Portugal's and Germany's. He knows what it's like to win titles, to compete in Europe, and, above all, what it's like to carry Barca's badge in his heart. Second, versatility. Grimaldo isn't just a left-back who locks down his flank like a padlock. He's an offensive weapon. His assists at Leverkusen were a spectacle: pinpoint crosses, overlapping runs, and even some stunning goals. Flick, who loves vertical, attacking football, must be rubbing his hands together imagining how Grimaldo will fit into his system. But it's not all smooth sailing, Cules. Grimaldo's transfer had to overcome a few hurdles. For example, registration. Yes, that word that scares Barcelonans more than a 90th-minute penalty. The club had to free up wage space, and that's where Iñaki Peña's departure came in. He renewed his contract and went on loan to Elche to clear room in the budget. Additionally, the renewals of key players like Frenkie de Jong, Jules Koundé, and Eric Garcia helped stabilize the finances. Deco, with a calculator in one hand and his phone in the other, played his cards like a poker master. And the result is here. Grimaldo is already in Barcelona, training with the team, ready to make his debut in the next match. Let's talk about the impact this will have on the team. Picture the lineup. In goal, Boise, pulled out of retirement to show he's still a wall. In defense, Tsa and Araujo as center-backs, with Bald and Grimaldo battling for the left-back spot. Yes, Bald, our young talent, now has world-class competition, but that's a good thing. Competition brings out the best in players, like when Ronaldinho and Eto'o used to challenge each other in training to see who could pull off the best trick. In midfield, Johnny and Pedri pulling the strings, with GAVI running like his life depends on it. And up front, Nico Williams, LAMINE YAMAL, and Lewandowski still scoring like he's 25. Isn't that a dream team? If that doesn't make you want to see it all firsthand, I don't know what will. Subscribe, cool, because you won't see this on just any news channel. But wait, there's more. This transfer isn't just about strengthening the squad, it's a statement of intent. Deco is building a Barça for the future, but also for the present. Grimaldo doesn't just bring quality, he brings that winning mentality Flick wants to instill. The German, who has already proven he can lead the team to the top, sees Grimaldo as the perfect profile. A player who knows the club, doesn't need time to adapt, and can make a difference from the first minute. And let's not forget the emotional factor. Grimaldo is a product of La Masia, someone who grew up dreaming of playing at the Camp Nou. His return is like coming home after a long journey and being welcomed with a freshly made paella. Now, not everything is roses and violins. Some say that €15 million for a 29-year-old player is risky, especially for a club with tight finances. But come on, who wouldn't take that risk for a fullback who could start for any top team in Europe? Plus, Deco has proven he knows how to manage the budget like no one else. Renewing 19 players in less than 2 years is no small feat. Since his arrival in August 2023, the Brazilian has renewed key players like De Jong and Eric Garcia and brought in young talents like Lobro Chelsea, an 18-year-old Croatian who promises to be the next Modric. All while managing economic restrictions and league demands. If that's not magic, let Cruyff come down from heaven to see it. And speaking of Cruyff, this transfer has a bit of that total football philosophy we love so much. Grimaldo isn't just a defender, he's a player who contributes to every phase of the game. He can defend solidly, join the attack dangerously, and even take free kicks if needed. At Leverkusen, his stats were outrageous. 10 assists and 3 goals last season. Imagine what he can do with players like PEDRI or YAMAL by his side. It's like giving Picasso a brush and saying, paint whatever you want. But let's not get carried away by just the illusion. There are challenges ahead. Integrating Grimaldo into an already well-oiled team won't be child's play. Bald, who has been an undisputed starter, won't give up his spot without a fight, and Flick will have to find the balance to make both fullbacks shine. Plus, the pressure at Barça is a whole different ballgame. Playing at the Camp Nou with 90,000 cules screaming your name isn't the same as doing it at the Bay Arena. But if anyone can handle that, it's Grimaldo. The guy grew up with Barca's DNA. He knows what tiki-taka is and has the experience not to be intimidated by anything. Another point to consider is how this transfer will affect the rest of the market. With Grimaldo in the squad, Barca now has more depth on the left flank, which could open the door for some departures. Hector Fort, for example, has attracted interest from clubs like Everton and West Ham. Will they loan him out to get more playing time, or keep him to learn from Grimaldo? Deco has the final say, but what's clear is that the Brazilian doesn't do anything without reason. Every move is calculated like an Iniesta pass in the last second. And as I write this, I can't help but imagine the atmosphere at the Camp Nou when Grimaldo steps onto the pitch. The stadium roaring, the chants of Barca, Barca, Ba, and Alejandro raising his hand to greet his own. It's the kind of thing that makes you love football, because Barca isn't just a club, it's a family, a passion, a way of understanding life. And Grimaldo, who has it in his blood, is ready to write a new chapter in this story. By the way, speaking of stories, did you know that Deco is also working on other fronts? Even though the market is about to close, there are rumors that the club is still looking for a center-back to strengthen the defense after Inigo Martinez's departure. Names like Ademola Lookman or even Rodrigo have been mentioned, though that seems more like science fiction than reality. But with Deco, you never know. The man has more aces up his sleeve than a poker player in Las Vegas. In the end, Cules, this Grimaldo transfer is just the beginning. The 2025/2026 season promises to be epic with a team that combines youth, experience, and, above all, hunger for titles. Flick is building something great, and Deco is providing the perfect pieces for the puzzle. So get your scarves ready, stock the fridge with beers, and settle in comfortably, because this Barça is going to make a lot of noise. And if you want to stay up to date with every detail, every goal, every play, don't think twice. Subscribe to the channel, because what's coming is even bigger. And here we are, Cules, still riding the euphoria of Grimaldo's transfer, a return that makes all of Barça fandom dream of epic nights at the Camp Nou. But let's not stop at just the emotion of the moment, because there's so much more to unpack in Deco's masterstroke. This move isn't just another name in the squad, it's a piece that fits like a glove into ANS Flick's tactical puzzle. And I'll explain why, breaking down every detail as if we were analyzing a play in slow motion. So grab a nice cold Estrella, because we're continuing the football discussion. The first thing to understand is how Grimaldo will change the team's dynamics on the pitch. Flick, who has brought a fresh wind to Barça with his direct and vertical style, has always emphasized the importance of fullbacks. He doesn't want defenders who stay back waiting for the opponent to attack. He wants fullbacks who are like knives, players who push forward, overlap, and break lines. And that's where Grimaldo fits like a glove. At Leverkusen, Alejandro didn't just defend. He was practically an extra winger, a player who reached the byline as easily as he cut out an opposing attack. His stats speak for themselves. In the last Bundesliga season, he averaged 2.5 key passes per game and an 85% pass accuracy. In a team like Barça, where the ball moves faster than gossip in a village, that's pure gold. But don't think this is just about the numbers. Grimaldo brings something more, something intangible that only those who grew up at La Masia understand. The Cule DNA, that touch, that vision, that way of reading the game as if the ball is an extension of his body. When he left the academy to join Benfica, many thought he was just another lost talent, one more player who couldn't break into the first team. But Alejandro left, forged himself into a man in Portugal and Germany, and now returns with the maturity of a veteran and the enthusiasm of a youngster. It's like if Iniesta had decided to come back to Barça after a few years away. It's not exactly the same, of course, but the feeling is similar. And if that already gives you chills, just imagine him in action. Subscribe to the Cules channel, because these stories, we only live them together, we who bleed Blaugrana. Now let's talk about how Grimaldo fits into the dressing room, because yes, talent is important, but at Barça, the dressing room is sacred, like grandma's dining room. Flick has built a united group where youngsters like LAMINE, YAMAL and GAVI mix with veterans like LEWANDOWSKI and De Jong. Grimaldo isn't arriving as a stranger. He's arriving as someone who already knows the smell of the Camp Nou grass, who has shared the dressing room with some of the Masia kids who are now stars. In fact, word is he's already spoken with Bald and PEDRI, with whom he shared the youth teams at La Masia. The chemistry is guaranteed, and that's key in a team that wants to compete in every competition. But let's not fool ourselves, Cules. This Barça doesn't just want to win La Liga, it wants the Champions League, the Copa, and even the summer tournament trophy if necessary. But not everything is idyllic, because this isn't a fairy tale. Grimaldo's arrival raises some interesting questions. For example, what's going to happen with Alejandro Bald? The young fullback, who has been one of the revelations of recent years, isn't going to sit on the bench clapping. Bald is pure nerve, speed, and audacity, but Grimaldo surpasses him in experience and that final touch in attack. Flick, who is sharper than hunger itself, will likely opt for smart rotation. In matches where Barça needs to dominate and open up the game, Grimaldo will be chosen for his ability to join the attack. But in physical duels like a Clásico or a Champions League match against an English team, Bald could be the key man thanks to his speed and ability to close down spaces. It's healthy competition, like the kind Albas and Vidal had at their peak, and it can only benefit the team. And speaking of rotations, we can't forget the schedule. The 2025/2026 season is packed. La Liga, the Champions League, the Copa del Rey, the Supercopa, and who knows, maybe even a Club World Cup. Having two world-class left-backs is a luxury few teams can afford. Imagine Grimaldo coming on fresh in the second half of a Champions League match with the opponent already exhausted from chasing Bald. It's like having two aces, and Flick knows it. The German, who always has a notebook full of tactical notes, must be designing plays where Grimaldo and Nico Williams combine on the left flank like their cousins in a family kickabout. But let's not just stay on the pitch, because this transfer also has an impact off the field. With this move, Deco has sent a clear message to rivals. Barça is back. It's not just that we've signed a great player, it's that we've done it for €15 million in a market where prices are more inflated than a balloon at a kid's party. This shows that the club is slowly climbing out of its financial hole. We're not swimming in money, but things are being done right. The contract renewals, strategic sales like Inigo Martinez's, and now this transfer show that Deco doesn't just understand football, he understands the numbers. It's like he has an MBA in sports management and a PhD in dribbling at the same time. And here's a detail few people know. The Grimaldo operation wasn't as simple as it seems. Leverkusen didn't want to let him go so easily. Even though the €15 million release clause was clear, the German club tried to negotiate a higher fee, knowing Grimaldo was one of their key players. But Deco, with the calm only those who have played at the highest level possess, kept his cool. Word is that during one of the meetings, Leverkusen's sporting director told him, "Alejandro is our leader, we can't let him go for so little." And Deco, with a smile, replied, "It's not that you're losing him, you're sending him back home." And so, with a few calls and a few coffees, he closed the deal. That's how you negotiate, Kules, not like some clubs that throw money around without thinking. Now, let's talk about the impact on the fans. Because yes, football belongs to the players and coaches, but also to us, the Kules who fill the Camp Nou, those who shout from the couch, those who argue in bars over whether the referee made the right call. Grimaldo's arrival has sparked a wave of excitement on social media. The memes didn't take long to appear. There's one going around with Grimaldo as Thor, hammer in hand, ready to destroy opposing defenses. And it's not for nothing. This transfer is a moral boost, a reminder that Barça doesn't just live off its history, it's writing new chapters. And if you want to follow every part of this adventure, don't think twice, Kuhl, subscribe, because you won't see this anywhere else. But it's not all laughs and memes. There are also debates on some forums. Some wonder if Grimaldo, at 29, is a long-term investment. It's true he's not 20 like LAMINE YAMAL, but in modern football, 29 is the new youth. Players like Modric or Lewandowski have proven that with care and professionalism, you can perform at your peak well past 30. And Grimaldo, who has always been a model of discipline, isn't the type to let himself go. At Leverkusen, his teammates described him as training-obsessed, always the last to leave the pitch. That kind of mentality is exactly what Flick wants in his dressing room. Additionally, let's not forget the domino effect this transfer could have on the market. With Grimaldo in the squad, Barça now has a dream left flank, but it could also mean other players like young Hector Fort seek minutes elsewhere. Fort, who has shown flashes of quality in the matches he's played, could be loaned to a La Liga team or even the Premier League, where clubs like Everton have already inquired about him. It would be a shame to see him leave, but sometimes you have to let the fledglings fly so they can return stronger, just as Grimaldo himself did. And speaking of returns, I can't help but think about what Grimaldo's first match at the Camp Nou will be like. Picture the scene, a Saturday night, the stadium packed, the lights bright, and the announcer's voice declaring, "Alejandro Grimaldo." The stands erupt, the chants echo, and he, with his characteristic calm, raises his hand to greet his own. Then, on the first ball he touches, he delivers a pinpoint cross that Lewandowski buries in the back of the net. Isn't that the kind of thing that makes you love football, that makes all the suffering, the nerve-wracking nights, and the arguments with Madridista friends worth it? But let's not get carried away by emotion alone. We also need to talk about the tactical challenges. Flick, who is obsessed with details, is already working on how to get the best out of Grimaldo. One key will be his connection with the wingers. Nico Williams, who has been one of the surprises of the season, is a perfect partner for Grimaldo. Both have that spark, that ability to unbalance defenses. Imagine Nico sprinting down the flank like a deer while Grimaldo overlaps, creating numerical superiority. It's like watching a ballet, but with cleats and a ball. And let's not forget the midfield. PEDRI, who seems to play with a GPS in his head, will be tasked with connecting with Grimaldo. The Canarians' threaded passes, combined with Alejandro's ability to reach the byline, can be lethal. Add to that Gavi's grit, who never loses a ball, and De Jong's class, who always finds space where no one else sees it, and Barça has a team that can make anyone tremble. Even Real Madrid, who still live off the momentum of Vinicius and little else, will have nightmares about this left flank. By the way, speaking of Real Madrid, I can't help but throw in a little jab. While they spend millions on players who never truly fit in, we, with a tighter budget, are building a team that combines talent, heart, and strategy. Deco has proven that he doesn't need a blank check to recruit well. He needs intelligence. And that's something the Cules appreciate, because Barça isn't just a club. It's a way of understanding football, a philosophy that goes beyond results. And while I'm at it, I can't help but imagine Deco in his office, coffee cup in hand, smiling as he plans his next move. Because let's not fool ourselves, this transfer is just one more piece of the puzzle. The winter market is just around the corner, and while the team seems complete for now, who knows what surprise our sporting director has up his sleeve. A centre-back, a defensive midfielder, or maybe another unexpected return. With Deco, anything is possible. In the end, Cules, this is just the beginning. The season is underway, and with Grimaldo in the team, Barça has one more reason to dream. So get your Blaugrana jerseys ready, fill the stadium with passion, and follow this adventure with us, because football, like life, is better when we live it together. And here we are, Cules, with the Camp Nou buzzing as if it were the eve of a Champions League final, because Grimaldo's arrival has sparked a flame that makes the entire Blaugrana fanbase dream big. This isn't just a transfer, it's a statement of intent, a bold move that says, Barça is here to win. Deco has played his cards like a master, and now it's up to us, the ones with the scarves and the shouts in the stands, to enjoy every detail of this move. So let's keep breaking down the story as if we were in our usual bar, beer in hand and hearts beating to the rhythm of the Cule anthem. Let's start with what this transfer means for the team's identity. Barça has always been more than a club, and Grimaldo embodies that essence like few others. It's not just that he came from La Masia, it's that he carries the Cule style branded into his soul. When you watch him play, you don't just see a fullback running up and down his flank. You see someone who understands the game as if he studied at Cruyff School. His movements aren't just instinct, they're calculated, precise, as if he has a map of the pitch in his head. At Leverkusen, he combined with his teammates with a naturalness that recalled the best days of tiki-taka. And now, in a team where PEDRI and De Jong weave plays like they're embroidering a tapestry, Grimaldo will be the golden thread that completes the masterpiece. But let's talk about something that's less mentioned, the psychological impact of this transfer. In football, it's not all about the physical or tactical aspects. The mind plays a huge role. Grimaldo is joining a dressing room that's in a good moment but also knows what it's like to suffer. The past few years, with injuries, economic crises, and a few rough patches in Europe, have left scars but have also forged a winning character. Alejandro's arrival is like an adrenaline shot for the group. It's a reminder that Barça doesn't just sign stars, it signs stories, emotions, players who understand what it means to wear this jersey. And for a young team with talents like LAMINE Yamal or Pau Cubarsí, having someone like Grimaldo, who has traveled the world but never forgotten where he comes from, is a living example that dreams come true with hard work. Now, let's think about what this will look like on the pitch. Flick is a coach who lives for details, a guy who analyzes everything down to the angle at which a player strikes the ball. With Grimaldo, he has a weapon that allows him to explore new tactical dimensions. For example, one of the keys to Flick's system is high pressing. Barça doesn't just want the ball, it wants to win it back quickly, as if it were stolen treasure. Grimaldo, with his intelligence for reading the game, is perfect for this first line of pressure. At Leverkusen, he was seen intercepting passes and anticipating opponents as if he had a sixth sense. Imagine that at the Camp Nou, with GAVI running like a bull and De Jong covering spaces like an octopus. It's a nightmare for any opponent. But it's not just about defense. Grimaldo is a fullback who attacks with the precision of a sharpshooter. His crosses aren't just balls into the box, they're invitations to score. In the Bundesliga, his passes into the box had surgical precision, and now with strikers like Lewandowski, who smells goals like a shark smells blood, or Nico Williams, who seems to run with a Formula One engine, those crosses are going to be deadly. And let's not forget Lamine Yamal, the kid who, at 18, is already doing things even Ronaldinho in his prime wouldn't have dared. The connection between Grimaldo and Yamal on the left flank could be pure spectacle, like a jazz duo improvising during a concert. And speaking of spectacle, there's one thing we can't ignore, Grimaldo's impact in the big games. Because yes, Barça wants to win La Liga, but what really gets our hearts racing are the Champions League nights, those duels where your heart leaps out of your chest. Grimaldo is no stranger to Europe. He's played against teams like Bayern, Liverpool, and Atletico, and he doesn't back down. His experience in these battles will be crucial when Barça faces giants like Manchester City or PSG. Flick, who knows what it takes to win the Champions League, must be licking his lips thinking about how to use Grimaldo in those matches where every detail counts. Across from him in the 90th minute for Lewandowski to finish. It's the kind of thing that makes you jump off the couch and wake the neighbors. Now, it's not all so simple. Integrating a player like Grimaldo, even if he's from the house, requires adjustments. For example, Flick's system relies heavily on synchronization between players. The fullbacks don't just need to push forward, they need to know when to do it, how to coordinate with the winger and the midfielder on their side. Grimaldo, who has played for years in a more rigid system at Leverkusen, will need to adapt to Barca's dizzying pace. But here's the advantage of his cool past. Alejandro already knows the philosophy. He knows that in this team, the ball isn't kicked, it's caressed. His adaptation won't be like that of a foreign transfer arriving without understanding the language of Blaugrana football. Another interesting point is how this transfer affects the development of the young players. LAMINE remains a talent factory, and players like Hector Fort or Marc Casado are waiting for their opportunity. Grimaldo's arrival might mean less playing time for Fort, who has shown flashes of quality but is still green. However, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. Having a reference like Grimaldo in training is like attending a masterclass every day. Fort, who is a sponge, can learn movements, positioning, and mentality from Alejandro. And who knows, maybe a loan to a La Liga team like Girona or Betis will give him the minutes he needs to explode. Deco, who always thinks long-term, surely has a plan for these youngsters. By the way, speaking of Deco, I can't help but admire how he managed all of this. The Brazilian didn't just finalize Grimaldo's transfer, he performed financial acrobatics as if he were a tightrope walker in a circus. The league's restrictions are stricter than a math teacher grading an exam, but Deco found a way to register Grimaldo without selling any stars. Part of this was made possible by commercial agreements like the new Nike contract, which gave the club some breathing room. But credit must also be given to managing departures. For example, loaning out Inaki Peña didn't just free up salary space, it also gave the goalkeeper the opportunity to shine at Elche, where he's already stopping penalties like a superhero. And if we're talking about superheroes, I can't help but think about how Grimaldo will win over the fans. The Cules are demanding, but we also know how to recognize our own. When Alejandro steps onto the pitch wearing the jersey with the crest he loves so much, the stands will roar as if it were Leo Messi himself. And it's not just for his talent, it's for what he represents. He's proof that Barça hasn't lost its essence, that LAMINE remains the heart of the club. Every time Grimaldo delivers a cross or cuts out a pass, he'll be saying, "I'm home." And if that doesn't give you goosebumps, I don't know what will. By the way, if you want to experience every moment of this adventure with us, subscribe to the Cules channel, because what's coming is going to be insane. But let's not stop at just the romance. We also need to talk about the economic impact of this transfer. Because yes, 15 million euros for Grimaldo is a bargain, but Barça isn't here to splurge. Every euro counts, and Deco knows it. That's why this move is even more impressive. Not only did he bring in a top-level player, but he did it without destabilizing the finances. Part of this is due to contract restructuring. Players like Eric Garcia and Jules Koundé accepted adjustments to help the club, showing that the dressing room is committed to the project. It's as if everyone, from the players to the staff, knows this is a pivotal moment for Barça. And speaking of pivotal moments, we can't forget the context of the season. Barça is in a strong position in La Liga, but the competition is fierce. Real Madrid, with Vinicius and Bellingham, remains a tough nut to crack. Atletico, with their usual grit, won't give an inch, and in Europe, teams like Bayern and Arsenal are stronger than ever. Grimaldo arrives just in time to provide that extra quality that can make the difference in tight matches. Because in modern football, titles aren't won just with talent, but with squad depth, with players who can come off the bench and change the course of a game. Another aspect that few people consider is how Grimaldo can influence set-piece play. Barça has improved a lot in this area under Flick, but there's still room for growth. Grimaldo, with his striking ability, is a specialist in free kicks and corners. At Leverkusen, his corner kicks were a nightmare for opposing defenses, and now, with players like Araujo or Lewandowski, those balls can turn into goals. It's a minor detail, But in a long season where matches are decided by millimeters, these things matter. And let's not forget the impact on the transfer market. Grimaldo's arrival has closed one door but opened others. For example, there are rumors that the club is looking for a defensive midfielder to complement De Jong and GAVI. Names like Joshua Kimmich, Micho, and Martin Zubimendi have been mentioned, though it seems more like a dream than reality. But with Deco at the helm, you never know. The Brazilian has a particular talent for finding opportunities where others only see problems. Meanwhile, the fans continue to dream of more surprises. Because if this transfer has taught us anything, it's that Barça always has aces up its sleeve. At the core, what makes this moment special is the feeling that we're building something great. Flick, Deco, the players, the fans, we're all rowing in the same direction. Grimaldo isn't just a fullback. He's a symbol that Barça is becoming the team that makes the world dream again. And when we see him running down the flank with the Camp Nou singing his name, we'll know it was all worth it. So, Cules, stay with us, because this story is far from over. Click the subscribe button, because what's coming is priceless.